What's good people? Vets, let's talk. We got a special guest in front of the formation today. Sergeant First Class Shannon Ward. Before we get started, I'd like you guys to click that like, share, and subscribe, man. HBO special. Help a brother out. Don't take nothing but a click. Hey, man, how you doing today, my friend?
As soon as I get this camera right, I'll tell you that I'm doing great. But all is well, man. It's always a pleasure to be able to sit down and chop it up with you and to just talk. You know, I believe iron sharpens iron. So anytime you can have a great conversation with somebody, it's always worth it.
Man, that's good, man. How the family doing? Did you take him out to lunch today? I hope you did, man.
No, I ain't really take nobody out to lunch today. You know, down here in El Paso, we're in that weird phase where it's cold in the morning, warm in the evening. So I'm just starting to get the yard together for the springtime. I laid some fertilizer. I aerated the yard. Just went into the shed, did a little bit of spring cleaning, just getting stuff together. You know.
I ain't even think of that, man. I'm in Texas too, but you like what, 8 hours from me?
9.
9. I was
Yes.
close. I was close.
Yes.
You know, you get tired of that Texas weather, up and
Yes.
down, cold, hot, man. Hey, so okay, you ready to jump into these questions, man?
I'm ready to jump in when you're ready to jump in, brother.
What was your transitioning process like?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. It was easy. And everybody's not gonna say what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna tell you why everybody doesn't say this. And before I say that, I want to precursor this. I want to precursor this with the transition is only what you put into it. And a lot of people don't put the effort into transition to get the desired results that they want. And you heard people say the military failed me, or they didn't give me the tools that I needed to be successful. So, with that being said, why I said my transition was easy, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. The Soldiers for Life program, which is the 1 week program that you go to. My last year in the Army, I went to it every month. And you're authorized to go to it every month. Once you're in a retirement or being chaptered stage, you can go to it as many times as you want, and it's in the regulation, and your chain of command cannot stop you. And that's the stuff that people need to know, that your knowledge is your power.
Right.
And for me, the transition was relatively easy because I took the steps, because since pretty much the age of 17, all I knew was the Army, right?
Right.
So now I'm getting out, and for after 21 years, and
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, how do I function? Because let's just be honest, the military tells you be a PT at 6:30. If you got a UA, you need to be there early. If you got a PT test, you be here. Be at this formation. And I was getting to a point where the structure that I was used to was going away.
Right.
So I had to start programming in my mind, how do I become successful, not based off of the Army structure, but out of a normal civilian life structure.
Right.
And part of what I did, and just so people know, I was big on that resume class. That was the big thing for me was the resume class. It was a job fair every week that I went to,
Oh
and
wow.
the VA benefits. Those were the big three for me, and those were the ones that I really started harping in on. And I learned how to use stuff like LinkedIn, because to be honest with you, all I knew was Facebook, and I hadn't really been on Facebook on it since about 2015. And even out of that, I really wasn't a big user of it. So I learned how to social network, and I learned how to put in different search engines to find different things. And also something that I learned, and because you got out in 2010. Am I correct?
Yeah.
You got out in 2010, right? So you got out literally 8 years before I did. You know what I'm saying? So by you getting out, because I was still stationed at Fort Hood at the time, I got to see what you went through. And I got to see how for you education was important, and how, you know what I'm saying, shout out to you going back and doing your bachelor's. You were still working in a dining facility. You were still taking care of soldiers. You were still hustling and grinding. But I got to see what you had done. And around that time, I didn't even have an associate's. So I pushed. And by 2012, I had an associate's. I got a little lazy when I went to Fort Leavenworth and worked in the prisons, but I started pushing again. By 2018, I had my bachelor's, and by 2020, I had my master's degree. So I just kept pushing. But I saw, like, your experience, what you went through, job searching, and I took those experiences, and they weren't necessarily bad for you, but I saw the stressors that you had,
Right.
and I was able to take that and say, okay, he did this. Well, what if I tweak that a little bit and I do this? I even go as far as to tell you this: 6 months before I got out, I had job offers. I had a job offer at Del Sol Medical Center to be the food director for the whole hospital. I
Hmm.
turned it down because I just didn't want that stress of getting out the military. Um, I had a job at Frito Lay's, working as a production plant manager. I also had accepted a job, but I ended up walking away from it as a child support officer for the state of Texas,
Right.
where I would actually go to people's houses that weren't paying child support.
Oh, that's a
And
stressor.
yes, so you understand what I'm saying. So I
Yeah.
had 3 jobs lined up before I got out the military because I was being proactive. I was shopping my resume. I was telling. I was in the brigade expo shop with the food service, so I would have CW5 or majors or lieutenant colonels. Hey, sir, look at this. Critique my stuff. Tell me what you really think about it. How can I make myself seem more advanced or more proficient in what I'm doing? That way, I can market myself better. So I just looked at some of the things that you did, and some other people that I knew got out, and I took that and I made a nice gumbo. and I fed off that gumbo, and that gumbo was helping me for my career. So because for most people who don't know, the job ended up happening for me was I literally I retired March 19th, 2020. March 17th, I had an interview with the Job Corps. March 18th, they offered me the job.
Hmm.
March 19th, I retired. And what I ended up doing, they wanted me to come to work March 20th, but I said, hold on, I need to breathe for a minute. So I said, um, give me about 3 weeks. And I did. It was about 3 weeks because my daughter had joined the Navy, and she was about to go, and I wanted to have a little bit of time to hang out with her before I left. And I took that 3 weeks, and then I went straight to work. So, but I would have only been able to do that if I was networking and I was talking to people, and people say, "Hey, you should go check this out, or you should do this, or you should do that." So, that's why I tell people, um, when you're transitioning, it's a whole bunch of things you got to look at. Number one, is the duty station that I'm at a duty station where I can thrive, or am I just going to survive until things open up for me? And when I looked at Fort Bliss and I looked at El Paso, I saw my wife had a good job. My daughter had just finished high school. My son was in middle school. And I had just landed a pretty decent job with the Job Corps. And I was saying to myself, is it worth uprooting my family and starting somewhere and not really knowing nobody and trying to put roots in, and then establishing myself? And for me, it kind of would have been bad because 6 months later, we got the pandemic going on in 2019.
Right.
So, I would always tell people, it's a phrase I tell people: your last duty station is your best duty station. So I always tell people, check your duty station out. See if it's a place where you can network and thrive, and you can do the things that make you successful. Like I started at Job Corps. I worked at Job Corps for 3 years. Now I'm a GS employee. I work for the Installation Food Program Office, where I do food service protection manager. I do health inspections. I do health audits for food service establishments in the Fort Bliss area of operation. But which is a great job, and I'm not giving that job up. But I would always tell people, you have to look and see, am I going to thrive or I'm going to survive?
Right.
And that would be um, my story as far as transition go. It's all about what you make it and what you put into it.
Yes. It's always about that. It's always, because I didn't really have anybody to look to during my transition. It was a lot of like you trial by error or just being thrown in the fire and it's coming
Yes.
out at the other end dry. But you get things from people, you watch people. We got a lot of stubborn soldiers or military personnel. They don't want to look at somebody as far as what they're doing. Oh, I can, I can make it, but when they get out, their purpose of
Yes,
things it kind of falls apart.
yes.
So what were your first couple of months out of service like?
My first couple of months out of service, I'm not gonna lie, were rough. Matter of fact, when I first took that job over at the Job Corps, the uh, the uh, the center director had to pull me into his office one day, and he said, "What was your rank in the Army?" I said, "I was Sergeant First Class." He said, "I don't need Sergeant First Class for it." He said, "I don't need that." He said, I need your institutional knowledge from the Army, but I need you to implement it as a civilian manager."
Hmm.
Because I still had that mentality, and this would probably be considered toxic leadership in the Army now. If you mess up on the product, you're working all day. I just, if you can read a recipe card, if you can follow the directions, the product is going to come out right.
Yeah.
That was more of my mentality, and he was telling me, I need you to kind of, keep the knowledge you have, but implement it in a way where regular people, non-soldiers, can receive the information, pick your brain, learn it, and be able to grow from that. Also, what I had to learn was work-life balance. Part of
Hmm.
transition, and I'm gonna go back to transition and wrap all of this back in. When you decide to get out the military, it's not just about you;
Man.
it's about your family too. And what I wanted to do was 24. That was my plan. My wife would tell you I was gonna do 24. And one day my wife was like, "Babe, it's time." I think I had been looked at for E8 like 7 times, and I hadn't got picked up for E8 yet. And what really hurt me was one of my soldiers had 10 years, and they got picked up for for E8 first look, and I'm looking at me. What I'm saying, it didn't hurt me because I don't hate on nobody, but I was
Right.
like, man, what am I not doing? I done everything. And I had a and I just came to the point that, after talking with my wife, that my time was up, and
Wow.
that my family needed me more than the military needed me. And my family wanted my time. My wife wanted my time. She didn't want, it'd be plenty of times I would be out, we would be out enjoying ourselves. A soldier do something, and I gotta leave my family. Or, hey guys, we gotta leave the rest of them. I gotta take you home, and I gotta go to work. Or it was times where I couldn't take my son to basketball practice, or my daughter wanted me to see her cheerleading. She had a play or a rehearsal, something that she wanted me to be in.
Hmm.
And part of the transition process for me was realizing that my family needed me just as much as the military. But at this point, my family needed me more than the military. I had
Right.
gave the military 21 years of my life. And now it's time for me to focus on my family. So I'm using that to wrap back into the second question that you asked, how was my first couple of months out of the military, to say it was hard trying to acclimate myself and then graft myself into my family's everyday actions because I was used to a certain routine. I
Hmm.
realized I was going to be the first person up in the morning. They probably weren't going to see me. Matter of fact, they won't going to see me because I was gone. PT, working in a dining facility, whatever needed to be done. Most of the time, I was the last person home. My last duty position was dining facility manager. Some days at work 4:30. Some days I'm not getting home till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. You understand the grind. And the first couple of months was, how do I get myself back and grafted into the things that my family do? And for me, one of the things that really worked was the pandemic.
Right.
Us working from home. I like to walk. So a lot of times in the morning, my kids will, "Hey dad, can we walk with you?" And we would take that time and we would walk 2 or 3 miles, and we would joke and we would talk, and you can't get time back, but you can make quality time with the time that you have and build from there.
Oh
And
wow.
that's what I did. Instead of saying I want to try to make up for all this time, I can't make up for my time in the military. But what I can do is promise you I'll be the best father I can be now. I'll be there for you if you want to hang out, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm there. Same thing with my wife. Me and you spoke last week. Like I told you, every week I try to take my wife on a date. I mean, even if it's just going to McDonald's and us sitting in McDonald's and eating a burger and some fries and
Hmm.
chopping it up, just that enrichment time with my wife to build us up, because I mean, everybody may say this nothing, but 4 deployments. I've been to NTC 13 times. I've been to JRTC 7 times. I don't know how many Jertex, Fort Hood, field exercises. I done lost count of how many times I've sacrificed at least 30 days a shot away from my family. Like I told you, when I was in Italy back in the early 2000s, 2001 to be exact, you went to the field twice a year for 45 days a pop to over your 2 field problems. So, for 2 times out of the year, you did a winter and you did a summer. For 45 days, your family didn't see you. And you in Germany, you're not in Italy. So, what I had to learn was how do I, instead of focusing on the time lost, how do I build on the present? And with my wife, she liked dates, and our dates don't always got to be 5-star restaurants. Sometimes, matter of fact, last night we went to get smoothies. And after we got smoothies, you know what I'm saying? We didn't even go home, man. We sat in the parking lot talking and drank smoothies, and it was good. My son, I noticed my son, whatever interest I like, he wanted to kind of figure out. I like to fish. He would go fishing with me. I like to hunt. He would go hunt with me. I like to play golf. Hey, Dad, can we go play golf? Hey, let's get it. Let's go play golf.
Right.
So and my daughter likes attention. So my daughter was the type who, if I was to get something to eat, some food or something, and I would just sit and talk to her, or we would watch something on TV, those were the things that built her up and made her say, "Yeah, my dad cares." So I took that time to realize like what works for each person in my family to make them feel like I'm there and I care. And I'm not saying I did it just to make them say that I care. I did it because I genuinely cared and I wanted to be the best person I could be post military for my family.
Man, I appreciate you for sharing that. Not it's not too many people to jump on here and share like intimate moments like that as far as what they dealt with as far as getting out. Well, man, I had to sit back and try to refigure out my family. I had to refigure out my wife. I haven't been around her for 6 straight months without being here or there. It's a lot to digest, man. Appreciate it. Times, I always say times like currency. You spend it
Yes.
in different ways every day. But I appreciate you for putting that out to people. And I hope y'all take some things from what he just said. Was there anything or anyone that helped you during your transition from military to civilian life?
Yes. A lot of people. Um, Towards the end, I was calling you a lot. But again, talking to people, talking to your friends, people who you can really trust, because I have some people who I'm cool with. I have some people who are friends, and then I got people like you who are my brother. Me and you have shared intimate things about our life that, ups and downs, highs, lows, that, even with some friends, you can't do that.
Right.
And we have that thing, him deposit in me, hey, it ain't coming out. You know what I'm saying? That's just
Right.
me. But you have some people who you confide in and say, you know what, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm doing. How did you get through this? You know what I'm saying? So, people at my church, I know everybody's not churchy, but, a support system is important to have. People who you can confide in, and people who you can talk to, and that aren't going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear.
Exactly.
You don't want anybody that's just gonna say something to shut you up. If you really my friend, I expect you to be honest with me, even if it hurts. Because if that hurt is gonna make me a better person or cause me to see it from a different perspective, like, man, why was I looking at it from that perspective? I see that now. I may not tell you I appreciate it right then and there, but somewhere along the line, I'm gonna come back and say, you know what, you was right, and I do appreciate it.
Man, that's good
So
stuff.
that was me. Just the having a support system, having people that I could really confide in, and not being afraid to fail. You're gonna make some mistakes when you transition. Anybody who tell you otherwise, uh, I don't know how. You're
Yeah.
gonna make some mistakes.
Walk away from that person real quick.
Yes, and give yourself time to make those mistakes. You've been, even if you didn't do 21 years like me, if you did 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, for those 3 or 4 years that you were in, or however many years you did, your life was not the average life of a regular civilian. There is a time where you have to adapt back to normal life.
Yes.
And you have to give yourself that time to adjust, to make mistakes, to understand the civilian side. So
Right.
that's what I would say.
I mean, I think a lot of people can recognize what you say about the brother thing and somebody that you shared a life or death situation with, because
Very true. We have.
it's
Very
kind of
true.
it's kind of crazy. But when you share a life or death situation with somebody, you become kind of attached for life. Like, I've
I
been through
agree.
this
And
with
that's
this
why you were
guy.
the best man in my wedding.
Right. So, hey, how do you think your time in the military affected you?
How do I think my time in the military? It made me a better person. Let me say that. I am definitely more disciplined, definitely more focused. Um, I am definitely a person who has a broader perspective than just what's in front of me. So it definitely gave me the five W's, a sense of things: the who, what, when, why, where, so to speak. But at the same token, it also gave me things I need to work on.
Hmm.
I realized that I had more of a temper when I got out of the military, more of a short fuse. I realized that I could be snappy with people and didn't realize I was being snappy with people. I also realized that uh, I'm trying to figure out the way to say this. I also realized that the way you talk in the military and the way you talk in civilian is two different dialects, so to speak. It's both English, but it's a whole different dialect. And
Yes, it
I
is.
had to learn how to bridge that gap,
Right.
you know. So that would be for me. And then the last thing, and I know this ain't everybody's story, but for me it was my health. Um, my first 10 years in the military, I thought I was Iron Man. I thought I could
Hmm.
do anything. It didn't matter if I got hurt. I could have a sprained ankle, bad back. It didn't matter. I was Iron Man. I was gonna keep moving. And I realized that the second half of my career, that's stupid. And I would tell anybody, just to add this in there, um, if you're gonna go the distance, and when I say go the distance, do 20. Even if you're not gonna go the distance, if you're sick, don't let nobody talk you out of not going to sick home.
Hmm.
Don't let nobody say that you're not a sick call ranger. I'm
That's a
gonna
big one.
uh, I'm gonna open up, and Don will already know this. My last year in the army, I had over $100. People be like, "That's crazy." I had over $100 appointments. Some days I would have 3, $4 appointments a day. I would be going for my knee, my elbow, my back. I had headaches. Um, I would even tell people, because nobody's gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you. Every military installation has a pain clinic, and I was in a lot of pain with my back and my knees, and I suffered from something called cluster headaches, and I didn't realize I suffered from until me and your last deployment together. I found myself stretched out in the hospital, felt like somebody was sticking a needle in my eye. And anyway, long story short, if you're in pain, you let your doctor or your PA, you want a referral to the pain clinic. Nobody's gonna believe what I'm about to tell you, but it's true. My last year in the military, I had doctor's appointments where I would literally go to the pain clinic. I would get a massage, acupuncture. They would give me some of them earbuds with like the ocean noises and the bees and all that stuff. You would put them in.
White
Then after you
noise.
got your yes, white noise. There you go. Then after you finish with your acupuncture and your massage, they would give you a hot blanket and a bed, and you would get to go to sleep for an hour.
Hmm.
To give your body time to heal. Man, my last year in the army, I was doing that 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday. Friday, that would be the last thing I do Friday. After the lunch meal, I have 1,400 appointments. I'd be in my D5 manager office. I put my PTs on, straight to the pain clinic. I would go through that therapy, then I straight to the house. I mean, it's true. Don't let nobody tell you what's wrong with your body. If you know your body better than a doctor, you know your body better than anybody. If your body's hurting, if if you're trying to do something and your body's saying no, get it documented.
That's right.
But when you don't and you go to VA gonna say there is no documentation. And let me tell you, even though I'm 100% permanent and total, my friends who aren't, who tried to play Iron Man through year 20 when they retired, and now they got high blood pressure. One of them had a partial ACL tear, but they were downrange and sucked it up and didn't get surgery. They just manned up. If it ain't in your records, it never
Yeah,
happened.
that is so true.
It
Hey
never
man,
happened.
thank you for being transparent, bro. You always on this topic. This question I asked you was always becoming, but you always got to grow within him because he allows you to do the things you need to do. I'm talking about God. Y'all already know I'm a believer, but hey, man, it's like I was asked a question about from my father. What's the biggest room you can enter? The room for improvement.
Yes.
Everybody has something that they has to improve on. Nobody's perfect in all things. Everybody got something they need to grow on. Everybody's got something they need to do. There's, like I always say, there's no big I's or little U's. So how hard was it to tell your family about you retiring from the military?
To be honest with you, it wasn't hard at all.
Hmm.
It had got to a point where my wife was pressing me, my kid, my son and my daughter was pressing me, and I had got to a point where you ever seen Rambo, and if
Yeah.
you ever seen Rambo Part Two when he's in there fighting with the bamboos and he's fighting the guy, and when his colonel come to him, one of the things he said was, "My war was over."
Now you say I remember that. Right.
Yes, yes,
Wow.
yes. And for me, my war was over. Um, I had literally done everything I could to honorably serve my country, honorably serve God, honorably serve my family, honorably serve my soldiers, my peers, and my support. I had done everything I could, and I had fought the good fight of faith as far as the military goes. And I had come to the realization. Remember, my plan was 24. But I had come to the realization that there was nothing else I could do to make the military better. I had done everything I could from my foxhole, from my perspective. So
Hmm.
when I walked away from the military, when I retired, I walked away knowing I left it all on the field. So the transition for me was I didn't, I mean, and I pretty much achieved everything I wanted. I left with my bachelor's. I did more than 20 years in the military. So first class is not a bad rank to retire
Hmm.
at. I had done everything I could, I felt, while I was in the military, and it was time to move on for a new challenge.
Man, that's good stuff, man. I appreciate that. Hey, man, let's jump in. I'm gonna skip this next question because you
Okay.
already answered a lot of that. Do you have something motivational to say to the people?
Only thing I'll tell you is iron sharpens iron. Shout out to Don Hayden over here. That's Let's Talk. I think that this is an amazing platform, and y'all don't know it, but I'm constantly encouraging him. I tell him he should have billboards up around Fort Hood or even some of these other duty stations, Air Force bases, Fort Bliss. That's Let's Talk podcast. I can see you one day having an XM radio station if you want me to be completely honest with you,
Hmm.
talking about issues that concern soldiers. But we need platforms like this where we can talk and we can be honest and we can tell people about the struggles that we've had both in the beginning of our careers, in the middle of our careers, at the end through transitioning, and then life as a civilian. So I would tell you if you're not with Vets Let's Talk, hey, like he said, it's an HBO special. Help a brother out. Subscribe. Hear what he's saying because he's bringing amazing people up here who's giving amazing stories and amazing testimonies about their ups and downs in the military. So for the vets, iron sharpens iron. And I believe Vets Let's Talk is one of those platforms that if you listen to what people say, your iron will be sharpened. That's right.
Man, listen to the pastor when he talk now. Hey, man, thank you, man. Thank you for your service, bro. Tell your wife thank her for her service because she was there.
Yes.
No fault. It might have been some things and some button heads in between, but she was there on every deployment. She was there. Every field exercise, she
Yes.
was there. Every training class that you had to go to, she was
Yes.
there. So hats off, salute to her. She was there. Salute to you for doing your 5,000 years and retiring from the military.
Right.
Appreciate you, man. I'm about to close out, man. Got a quote from Mark Twain. Keep away from people who belittle your ambition. Small people always do that. But the really great make you feel that you too can become great. That's that iron sharpens irons that he was talking about. I didn't even tell him about the quote I had, but that's what it is. Keep your circle and allow your circle to help build you up as an individual. Hey, let's talk. Who's up next for formation? Out.